Life on Side B is a ministry of pastorship, a missiological ministry equipping church leaders and parents on LGBTQ inclusion and care. You can learn more at pastorship.com. Also, we want to thank all of our patrons who keep the podcast going through their continued giving. So if you love the podcast and would like to become more involved, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/lifeonsideb. And now, let's continue with our episode.
Well,
speaking of, have I showed you guys my cup?
what does it say? I like my coffee. Now I like my men.
I like my coffee how I like my men. I also like tea. Is it not? It's not.
Oh, I get it.
It took a minute. And you get the color.
I
the
do.
colors.
I love that.
Yeah, I can see the colors and I get the idea, but I don't directly get it.
You know the saying, I love
like,
my coffee like I like my men, like creamy, dark, whatever. You get it. Yes.
Yeah.
It reminds me of David Rose's wine analogy to pansexuality.
True. I don't know it.
I've never seen the show, but I saw a video of that. I loved it.
Oh yeah, but I don't remember things. Like somebody else was quoting Schitt's Creek. I was like, I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, there's an episode where David slept with Stevie, and Stevie's kind of shocked because Stevie thought he was gay, and she does it by going, "I love red wine. I also thought you love red wine," and he's like, "Well, I do love red wine, but I also like white wine. At one time, I also had a Chardonnay on a beach in Long Island," and then she was like, "Oh, so you like all things." Like
I like it. A little rosé. I should make a wine cup. I need one.
Oh, rosé. Yeah, it was like
I think he said that. Yeah,
and all this stuff. So it was really. I was like, that is a great analogy to at least pansexuality is what he was talking about. But bisexuality was just like, I love white wine and I love red wine.
Yes. Oh, now I need a wine cup.
Oh, there you go.
I need a wine cup.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Ashley, Elizabeth, it's the three of us. I love this. You know, we were kind of putting this out to all of the co-hosts, and you know what, we were just seeing who all was available, and here we are, the three.
Yes, this is what the Lord wanted. This
is what the Lord called for the day.
There you go.
We're going to talk about Side B 101. That's kind of what we've been talking about, like as a name for the episode. Like, what do we wish we would have known when we entered this conversation, when we entered these communities, all of that. The fun part is we actually already recorded this episode once.
Yeah.
What?
Even though we don't really remember what we said.
No, we don't. So there we go. We're going to do it again. But
that's good to hear, because I'm pretty sure I heard this episode. Because again, all things new for me in Side B world. So I listened to all of Life on Side B in all past three seasons in the matter of 2 months. So everything is
well, Elizabeth,
together.
You were on the re-recording of this. You were on the previous recording.
Yeah.
This is we're doing this as a re-recording of the second episode when we did the premiere. Remember when we did the premiere and we did 2 episodes?
Why? Why are we doing this again?
Because of how the quality of sound and everything was that day.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm back.
See, we really don't remember.
We don't remember doing this, so it's probably really good that we're doing it.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I guess with that then to start, I think it would be really good to hear what was y'all's first experience when you entered the Side B space or began doing this? Like, Elizabeth, I remember you shared a little bit about when you came to terms with Revoice, but maybe if you shared what was your first experience entering a Side B space, maybe an online space or something.
Well, can I actually pass it back.
Yeah.
I want to pass it to Ashley because I feel like I'm the
you're
newbie,
still kind of new.
So
You're
I
still
would love to give
the baby bee.
Yeah, I want to give my like fresh reflections after we hear from.
That sounds great.
From those who have walked this journey.
Ashley can go, and then I'll go because Ashley, you've been in the community longer than me. I think.
Yeah. 2015.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what was your experience like entering Side B communities?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, like I said, when I was trying to come to terms with my sexuality, I was still in South America where I had like very little resources. Everything in Spanish was from Exodus. It was a lot of that. And I had come to the States for Christmas one year, and I bought like a book that kind of went through more like theology. It wasn't really that explained more the scriptural part, and I just kind of started rethinking things. I was like, I had finally gotten over Exodus closing, because for me that was actually kind of crushing, because I wanted to hold on to the hope that I could be straight, you know. And coming to terms with that's probably not going to happen for me. I was like, maybe I need to rethink this as to how this is going to work, how is this going to function in my life. And
because you were already married at this point, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been married for 10 years. So I was just kind of looking up resources, seeing what I could find on the internet, really. Reading what I could find, which wasn't a lot. And I started coming across like old Rosario Butterfield, Christopher Schwann stuff when they weren't as strict, extreme. I don't know how you want to say it.
Yeah.
And they were the first people that I heard like, you could be same-sex attracted and love Jesus, and that's not a problem. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's think through this. And I started just going through like this, like, rabbit hole of different sections of the internet until I finally found GCN. And the side B board on it specifically was very dead. So I was kind of just in like this mixed orientation marriage group for a while, which was very weird because most of them were side A. So it was kind of like lots of open marriage situations, or just very depressed. And then I finally got into, they had like the side B thing, like it opened, or it took me in, and then they said like somewhere like, we know another group that's online that's more active if you want to join there. I was like, cool, yeah, I'll do that. And that's when I kind of like dove in and met, like, there were like, oh, there's a lot of people like this, like there's a lot. And then I started going through like my own scriptural study, because I was still working in the School of Biblical Studies in YWAM. So I went through scripture. I was like, I'm gonna go deep into this. As I was getting to know this community, and I'm sure you both can say the same thing. You saw all these people being so open, so vulnerable, like sharing like where they are and asking their questions. And I was the young one who didn't know anything and asked all kind of dumb questions. I wanted to find people my own age.
No such thing as dumb questions.
Okay, so slightly naive questions, maybe.
That's okay. There's grace for you, baby Gaby. There's grace.
The group
for
was
you.
a lot smaller back then too, so it wasn't as like, don't worry, there's 5,000 of these conversations already. It was pre-revoice. It was pretty tight knit at that time.
Yeah.
And then I interacted with it. I was more trying to figure out my own stuff, but I didn't interact with the group as much, at least not with people. And then when I moved back to the States and I was by myself, it was when it was those people in Side B that were the ones checking up on me, asking me how I was doing, how my husband's paperwork was doing with immigration and everything. Those are the people checking in on me. Those are the people that were like being my community without me having to ask for it. That really just made me feel so at home with them, and I felt like, okay, this is really something special here. And the more I dove in theology, and then Josh and a lot of people have said this similar things. Like when Pulse happened, it changed something. Like to a certain point, it's like our theology was there. We're like, yes, okay, I'm gay, I'm Christian, it's fine. But you didn't really connect with other people, and then this happened, and it was this solidarity in a way that was like, I can't act like this is not my people. In a way, they might act like I'm not their people, but I can't keep pretending to a certain extent. And that's when I started really becoming like more open, I guess, to the community itself, and really trying to be involved.
Wow.
Yeah, there was something like Pulse was just this mega moment when I feel like a lot of people who thought, like, even people not even just in the Side B, world, but also just queer people that maybe were like, oh, I'm not really connected to the community. This is not necessarily my people, even if I'm gay. I feel like there was just this moment of going, no, we're all connected. Like, this all affects us. And seeing a lot of people that go, no, this is my family, whether I like it or not. Like, this is my people and my tribe. So, yeah,
that was actually, I think, the same week I moved back to the States. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I was here. I had been here a few days. I think it was a Sunday morning.
Yikes.
I had just started reading People to Be Loved because somebody sent it to me. And I read something on the internet right before church, and then we were on the way to church, and it was like on the radio.
Whoa. Wow. Well, what a welcome back.
Right?
This is America.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah. Gosh, I started entering Side B spaces after Pulse. Like, I'm one of those people where I had kind of been doing it by myself, generally understanding the idea of being gay. I'm just not having sex. But I thought that I didn't think I had come up with something revolutionary. I just thought I was the weirdo doing this. Like, I'm that weirdo that has decided that they're going to be gay and Christian and not have sex because they still have weird beliefs. And it was actually through a posture shift event because Nate Collins and I had known each other from years ago. Wow. And he posted about a posture shift event in Orlando at the time. And I didn't have a concept that people like Nate that I had known were like Side B. I didn't have this understanding.
Yeah, my thing was like, there has to be more people. There has to be somebody else.
No, I was seriously like, this is such a weird idea to have. I'm probably just odd. Just that odd. And so I went to a posture shift event, and it was actually like, wow, oh my gosh. So like, that wasn't even about Side B. That was just about like LGBT inclusion. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are ideas I've had. Like, someone else has them. Wow. And then I met Meg Botts, and Meg Botts was like saying, oh, I'm kind of like in a similar boat as you. Oh, and there's others, and they're connected online. And I'm like, what? It was like super, super interesting then to connect and see just these people who were living out both in the same way, in different ways. And I was in Colombia still at the time. So it was really, really helpful. I knew other like celibate LGBT Christians in Colombia, but they were very few. And so it was just interesting for me to see this where you saw a wide range of people. And I guess I initially assumed that we were all exactly in the same like context of life and all of this. Quickly learned that was not the case.
Absolutely not.
But then I think within a year, it was actually within a few months, then Revoice happened. The first Revoice, 2018.
Yeah, I was to say you joined the year of the first Revoice because I was like a moderator of that group that year.
Yeah. My initial group that I got into, Ashley was an admin at the time. Because I remember I met you then the first
Revoice
day, like the pre-conference day of Revoice or something.
Maybe.
It was.
I think
The
it was the
first day
first.
of Revoice.
Yeah, it was the first night of Revoice. I think I remember that.
Yeah.
You were actually kind of shy.
I was.
Oh my god.
I was.
What?
Well, also.
Who?
Well, the funny part is, because I didn't know
didn't
anything
know
about this
anybody.
whole space, Ashley was an admin, so I was like, oh my gosh, this is a famous person.
No,
Like,
but we also,
Oh
I think
my
we had talked about like
gosh.
missions and stuff, so there was that too.
Yeah. But you were also an admin, so I was like, wow.
That was
like...
I
an
love
odd experience at
that.
that first Revoice. I did have quite a few people, even Henry, would like come up to me like, I love reading your comments online.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you have
This world is too small, y'all.
I know.
Like, that's a little scary.
It's that weirdness of like, you know someone online and then you meet them in person. You're like, are we meeting for the first time, or is this like?
Well, see, the thing is, I didn't even know Henry. This was before he was even in the group. He knew me from the comment section of Your Other Brothers.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes.
The solitary woman in the comment section. I used to comment a lot.
It's so funny. I remember meeting you at Revoice. I remember seeing Henry and all of his outfits, and I was like, gosh, I need to meet this man. And we met the last day. I cried in Becca's workshop, and
oh my gosh,
she did the non-traditional families are biblical families.
Oh, the one. The one about like adoption and stuff.
Yeah, it was really, really good, and intentional community and stuff. And then I still remember meeting Grant. I will not meeting him, but I looked across the auditorium and I saw someone with a huge fan that said Shade on it. And they were just like fanning themselves.
The church was hot.
We
will
really
say
hot.
that. It was July?
Yeah, but that's still a very
so
Grant.
extra.
Well, yeah, we all had little
like,
V-Voice fans. He had his own
extra.
fan.
Yeah, he had his Shade fan. And it was huge. And I was like,
of course he did.
I love him. But I think I didn't meet him that time. I didn't have the courage to go up and talk to him. But yeah, I was shy that first time because I went by myself.
Oh, that must have been interesting.
I didn't know.
But I mean, Bill
That's
was there.
Big step.
But I didn't really know Bill at the
Oh, I thought you
time,
did.
Really?
I thought you did.
Well, I had met him.
I thought you worked with Posture Shift already at that point.
No, I didn't start working with him until like the October after that. But
okay.
But I definitely had met him before. Wait, maybe I was working with him. I can't. No, I wasn't working with him yet. But I definitely went to his workshop then. Like I had met him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I remember me and Grant and quite a few other people. We stayed in a big Airbnb that first year, and I remember, and I had known Grant for years at this point, like at the very least 3, because we joined the group around the same time. And at this point, I used to post like videos when I was just too lazy to write in the group, which I stopped doing because I know some people have hearing impairments. But at the time, I did it a lot. And I remember we were in the house, and he goes, "This is the first time I've heard your voice." Like, Grant! I didn't know you had an accent. Grant! And then we start the podcast. He's like,
Funny.
Ashley's American?
Yes. I still remember that moment
and I'm
when
like,
he
Grant,
realized
you've
you're not
heard my
Latina.
accent.
Amazing. I mean, for me, it is interesting. I don't remember if I've said this yet, but I came into the Side B world as an ally of sorts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
So, my first kind of Side B exposure was also Posture Shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going because I was trying to like start an LGBTQ ministry within my last ministry context or 2 ministry contexts ago, whatever. And I wanted to take my supervisor and I was like going to show her, hey, there actually are people having discussions about inclusion and theology and just caring for people, like humanity as it relates to LGBTQ and the church.
Yeah.
So I took my supervisor and my intern at the time, and my intern had come out to me shortly before then. So I was also there not only to like convince my supervisor, gain information for myself, but to like create space for my intern and try to get her connected to people. So I was like all up in Bill's face. Like after every session I'm talking to him, and I was like, "Bill, do you have any friends that you can connect me to my intern, because like she needs community?" And he was like, "I'm going to connect her to Meg Bots." So Meg Bots is like a common denominator here, and got connected to Meg, and she shared a Side B community, the Facebook group, with my intern. And I was so freaking jealous because I wanted to be a part of that community so bad. And I used to meet with my intern's name's Masha. She's also my best friend. I think I've mentioned her a few times on recording, so I don't know what order we're in. But anyway, she would come over my house and I would be like, "So what's going on? What's going on in the community today?" And she's like, "I'm not supposed to tell you. I can't tell you anything." And then she would be scrolling and laughing or be like, "Oh, what's that about?" And I'd be like, "Please just show me. Like, I won't tell anybody." I just was dying to be, because I'm nosy. I'm nosy AF and I cannot be left out. So fast forward, I go to Revoice, and Revoice was it. Like, Revoice was my gateway drug into queerness, because I just, there was no denial anymore. It was just so raw and real, and the testimonies were incredible. And, obviously God just moved in my heart to be honest and vulnerable. So it's been a fun and wild ride, because I literally my first Revoice was 2020. So that was the pandemic online Revoice. So I didn't really, I saw people on screen, but I didn't know anyone. Started being a part of the Facebook community shortly after, but I'm also a mom of 2 and ridiculously busy, and was going through ministry trauma.
Yeah.
So I wasn't super connected. So then I go to Revoice this past year, and go back a little bit. Next thing I know, I'm asked to speak at Revoice, and I asked to be on a panel, and I was like, y'all don't know me. I don't understand why anybody is asking me to do anything. So it felt like though I had went to Revoice 2020, it was Revoice soft. It was Revoice light. And then, last year it was this is the full experience, and I'm speaking, and now I've started this ministry with Meg. Everything came like that. It was 0 to 60.
I was about to say, yeah, so, you just
right?
Dove in head first, yeah.
All of it.
But honestly, it's so me. If once I fall in love with something, I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. So, but however, I think I've really seen a lot and learned a lot, and it's at my advantage because I come at it from a different place. I'm coming at Side B community as a 35-year-old who is not identified as queer for most of her life, nor identify in the Side B community. And quite honestly, a lot of the work that I do and the people that I hang with are not Side B, but just regular old LGBTQ people who have no faith. So there's a lot of interesting differences there, the way people kind of, identify and interact with their own identity in God. So it's fun.
Yeah, I've said it a couple times. I like some of the the freshness that you bring to some of the conversation, because there's things that are quote unquote taboo that we don't say, that you have no idea about, and you say it. And it's
I don't know what we're not supposed to say.
Not that we're not supposed to, that we don't. I think you talking, your Revoice talk, that was the first time I've heard someone talk about that type of thing out in the open without it being so trauma-informed from our past and the way that we were taught about sexuality and all these other things, where you're we still gotta talk about this, though. These we still need boundaries, and those are conversations we need to have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there are such beautiful things that I see in the Side B community, in the Side B world and theology. I do not question where I am. Like, I'm so grateful for this family. But just like any family, like, yeah, we're not perfect, and there's some conflict there, and there's some
all
drama,
the time.
and there's some things that I see where I'm like, we could do this better. So let's do it together. So I'm really hoping that not just me, but all of us can, reform and always reforming, right? Like always being sanctified. So
yeah,
good time.
Well, and I guess that's like kind of leads into my next question of we've all grown. We've all, continue to grow. Some of that has been because of, Side B spaces. Some of that has been in spite of Side B spaces, or the church or whatever. And, we've gotten messages throughout the podcast where people will write in loving the podcast, and they'll talk about how we many times can get very, very technical, very, very beyond where they're at, where they're like, don't forget the gabies, don't forget us who are starting. Or people can come into this and be like, just jumping in. And I was just thinking about what, now as I have grown, what are some of the things I wish I had known back when I started? Like with everything I know now, if I could go back to Josh, like
little shy Josh,
revoice, little shy Josh, try to speak to famous Ashley. What would I like? What would I tell him? Or what would I say to people who are entering, these kinds of things, and so, I mean, I can start off with like some of the things that I have been thinking in that, because I think one of the things, and I tell this to a lot of Side B people when they kind of begin to meet other Side B people, is don't expect it to meet all of your community. Don't expect it to meet all of your community. Don't even expect to connect with everyone or to agree with everyone. Use it as a tool to meet your people that you need to meet and to just stay informed of what's happening. Because I feel like there is, and I know we're going to talk about this in some other episodes, but there's this strong idea that I feel happens where I many times will separate Side B belief from Side B organizations from Side B community. These are three different things.
Yes. Good.
And just because you have issues with one, just because you have issues with one doesn't mean you have to cross out the other two. Because some people will say, oh, I don't like this organization, or I really have a problem with this online group, or whatever. And they'll be like, so I don't know if I can be Side B. I'm like, well, that's has nothing to do with each other.
Yes. Well, and also theology. Like, I am really thankful for the people, this is myself, but the people I've met through Side B who are not Side B. Like, they're like, I don't actually hold a Side B theology, but these are my people. Or I'm still trying to figure it out theologically, but I'm not going to just run away from these people who have invested in me for the past, 5 years, 10 years or whatever. Like, I love that. Somebody told me recently, like 25% of the people who came to Revoice were not Side B. And I was like, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. Like, that is fantastic.
I was very surprised when I heard Matthew Vines went.
I loved it. I couldn't. I was like,
I heard because like I had left and I heard somebody say, I was like, what? Okay.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah. No, that's so true because I think we separate.
No, Josh, go. Yeah.
No,
go, please.
Okay, I just the way that we separate the two. We think that first of all, if you're in ASBC, you have all of my theology personally.
Not at all.
And then we just make all of these different things, and I think that those have to be separated. You can't expect it to meet every need you have. It absolutely is. There's a lot of emotionally unhealthy people that identify as Side B or around it.
Everywhere else. Like, it is not unique.
Exactly.
It's made of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not an excuse for not growing, but it's a thing of like not getting hopes up in that way.
Because a lot of people have been burned like that. Like they've gone in like expecting to get every need met there. Like they're super. And I mean, nothing against anybody who's like super lonely, going through a time of depression. They're super touch starved. Whatever you're going through, obviously that's a hard thing to go through. But you can never. And I'm not saying Jesus is everything, even though he is. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that nonchalantly, but you go in there expecting people to meet those needs, and you're gonna get burned one way or another. We've had people leave being like, "It's not what I expected." I was like, "What'd you expect? It's not church."
Well, and I think people go in with the desire to see themselves in other people as well, which is a part of community. Like I'm going into this community because I hope to see people who look like me and act like me and who I don't have to over explain myself to. Like I was having dinner with one of my straight friends. Actually, the jury's out. Okay, so one of my friends and a friend who has been living as a gay man, celibate and single for the past like 20 plus years. Like this man is a legend to me.
Yeah.
So we're all hanging out. I hadn't come out to either of them, and I start sharing my story, and I start like giving, I don't know, I don't even remember what part of the story I said, but I said something, and this guy stops me and he like puts his hand on the table like very gracefully and graciously. I was like, I understand, Elizabeth. It's okay. You don't have to keep explaining. I understand. And I was like, like I felt it. I was like, there's sincerity in there. And he's like, isn't it so nice that somebody else gets it? So that's something I love about coming into this IB community, is because I can just say it,
That's another thing too. Like you said, you go in expecting to find people who have stories similar to yours. And I feel like 3 different things happen in a way. Like one, you find people who look like you, sound like you, have similar interests as you, have similar stories than you, and you don't get along. You actually don't see eye to eye. And then you find people that like, you don't look like me, sound like me, have similar interests in me, but we're actually on the same page.
Yes.
And then you find people that you just click with, and then you find people that you absolutely don't click with. There's all that variety. You can't just and the thing is, when you go into these groups where if you've grown up Christian and you've only heard 1 or 2 people ever talk about sexuality before, and now you're surrounded by it, you automatically feel vulnerable. All these people understand me. You kind of instantly connect over these like root traumas, which is like deep.
Yeah.
But you don't know if the people have dogs or not.
Frightening.
So it's like it's a very like, it's like when you meet for the first time in Revoice, it's like I know your mom issues, but I don't actually know you as a person. So there's a lot of things that you have to learn about healthy relationships, that just because you automatically connect with people over one thing does not mean you're actually going to connect or be best friends, and that's not a bad thing.
No. Well, and that's why I think we have to all be vigilant to watch out for codependent relationships and unhealthy relationships within the community. Because of what you're talking about, Ashley. I know what turns you on. Like, I know what trauma you've gone through. Like,
triggers,
I know. Yeah, I know it all. Like, I know stuff your mama don't know. But I don't know what kind of food you like. I don't know your last name. I don't know who you are as a person. So then there's already a boundary, and it's not a bad thing that is crossed or like a commonality that's shared, but it also does breed some false intimacy.
Yes.
And I think that's why, we come across people who get into these really dangerous or uncomfortable or unwarranted or unwanted relationships
or situations.
Like, but we really know each other.
Or I'm just gonna say it. Or people that are trying to be pursuing celibacy and then get into situations and then they ain't being celibate.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, that's exactly what. Thank you for just saying it. That's exactly what it is, but it makes sense.
It does. Like, there's a thing, like you said something, like I said, that's one of the things that, like, I feel like in the side world we don't say no more because of our trauma with Exodus. Codependency. We really strive with it. Mm-hmm. Me and Meg, we still have this postponed phone call that we want to talk about codependency. What it is, what it's not, and what we've always said it is, but it really isn't. Kind of like that meme. It's like you keep saying that word, but you don't know what it means. But like, yes. That is something we really do need to work on. Not in the way we always did, where it's like, you don't actually like this person, you're codependent, you need to be careful with codependency, that's what makes you gay. Not at all. But codependency is a thing that we do need to be wary of. And people, like the old saying, they like to play with fire. You know, they like to, like, let's see how far I can push the line with, like you said, this false intimacy that makes you feel so close. And let's see, because I'm not going to go there. But, like, let's see what this feels like, and before you know it, that's where you are.
Yeah. I was on a retreat this weekend with a bunch of LGBTQ Christians with our ministry, that's awesome. And it was lovely. What's that? Oh, thanks. No, it was lovely. But on the way back, one of the guys who was with us is a therapist, and a fantastic therapist, like, so great. And he was like, caring for everyone. He was like, if anyone just wants to chat with me individually during our time here, like, I'm not offering therapy sessions, but I'm here to, like, be a listening ear. It was amazing.
I can give you some good insights.
But on the ride, oh my gosh. Okay, so on the ride back, just random facts, he tells us that the top reason why therapists lose their license is because they have sex with their clients.
That makes
top
sense.
reason.
I didn't know it was a top reason, but I knew that was a thing.
It shocked me. I was like, ooh, why? But it makes sense when you think about it. Why? Because of that false intimacy. Like, there's this person who's coming in a vulnerable place, and they're sharing their deepest, darkest secrets with me, and I'm helping soothe their pain and care for them and help. And so then, like,
the patient thinks they're in love with them.
Yeah, or the doctor or the therapist does. Like, it breeds that. That's why boundaries are so necessary in a therapeutic environment. That's why those can't, like Josh was saying, those can't be the only relationships you have. A therapist has to have friends, their own therapists, other communities, so they're not just hanging out with their clients.
Yep.
Because there's this opportunity for false intimacy that could turn totally wrong.
Exactly.
So I hope that for our community too.
Like, that was one of the reasons.
Codependency episode. It's that healthy boundary episode
that we won't do.
We're gonna do, and then we haven't
in like season 2. But that was one of the reasons I liked. It was like on, like I said, Your Other Brothers. They're a tossed salad, but I like it. Some of them. Tom did like a few like connected posts that I think he called the Cuddle Chronicles about uncomfortable situations he was in, where it wasn't that anything wrong was done per se, but it made him uncomfortable, and he felt like he crossed his own boundary or someone else's boundary because of fear to say something, or it was a new situation or different things like that. And it was I found it refreshing because it was not like, this is wrong, no one should do it. But it was like, for me, this made me uncomfortable. And I didn't say anything at the time. And this is what I learned from it. And I think that that's something, like you said, that's something we need to talk about more.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this is something I've been processing a lot, especially when people come into Side B spaces. And this is also, I think, important for people that come into Side B spaces that haven't landed on their theology, which I think is okay and needed. But I think that there's also something really important to understand about the hyper vulnerability to sexual pressure that there is in Side B spaces, because when you have a space that is based upon the agreement that we're not pursuing sexual activity among each other, at least among the same sex, like individuals, that there becomes a level of openness that people allow themselves. They take away a guard that they normally would have up of people making sexual advances. It's a thing that we all have, but then we take that down because we think, oh, I'm safe in this space. No one's pursuing sex. But then if you have a person who's processing or who is not completely clear on that, they might even say it. No, I'm, side B, but then they're not completely. Yeah. And they may not even intending it in that way, but they might give nonverbal communication for sexual advances that the other person was not prepared to have their boundary up in order to engage with. And therefore, you end up having situations of sexual pressure. There's so many things in this, like, especially for guys. I think it goes for all members, but especially for guys. When I see new side B people, I always say, be careful. Yeah. Just be careful. Understand that just because people are pursuing celibacy doesn't mean that they're doing it well. That they're trying to do it. And like, there's the emotional side, there's the sexual side, especially among guys. Like, I'll be honest, there is a factor of like that people will, once they see someone that they think is objectively attractive, they will get messages from other people that they see online. Yeah. It's a reality. It's something that happens. And the sad part is that people have to like deal with this. And yes. I just think that there's some things to be aware of in that way.
I really like the second episode you and Christian did on his, like, you guys did the sexual abuse one, like on our main channel, and then like I listened.
Oh, and then we did the bonus episode
later on. I listened to it like way later, and I was like, that was actually really good because it talked a lot about like the like those other things like boundaries and more like what you want to say, like smaller stuff, not as serious stuff, but like these kinds of things, like the boundaries in like friendships, relationships, unknown situations, stuff like that. It was really good.
Yeah, I thought that was really good for everyone. For on a bonus episode last season, Christian and I answered questions from patrons, and there was a lot of good questions related to kind of what leads into you know, situations of sexual violence and stuff. But the last other thing I was thinking about that stood out to me as something that I wish I had known or pushed more quickly in Side B was friendships with people that were different from me. Like, honestly, in all of my years in queer community, Side B spaces were actually my first time having deep, intimate friendships with like queer females. Both of you are two of those examples. You're welcome. Thank you. And it's amazing. Like, there are many aspects, I think, and this is a general queer community where we'll many times stick in our own little bubbles within the queer community. And I think that there's some need for that, to be able, as you said, to be able to hear and see yourself in many ways. But then I think there was such a beauty for me, especially with friendships with women, that I was like, I don't know, there was just such a bonding and a beautifulness to it that I found in, especially pursuing that in Side B, that I had never had, even in my queer days, like before faith and all of that.
I love that. That is really great. And I'm go ahead. No, please.
I'll say that's interesting
I'm about to probably say, go ahead.
I said it's interesting because, like, I feel like for women, at least in the past, maybe not as much now, because now there's a lot more female voices and stuff like that. But in the past, women always had to interact in male queer spaces because men were the only ones talking about sexuality. So, like, that's kind of why I was always on Your Other Brothers, because it was a resource I found. It was stories I related to. I have lots of brothers. So, like, interacting with guys has never been a problem for me. But also, like I said, for queer women, it was almost kind of like the only option you had anyway. So we kind of have a little more in that we tend to interact more with queer guys because it's the option that there is. But that's interesting that you say that. Like, I guess guys never really had to do that because they were always in these male-dominated spaces.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and then Elizabeth, I want to hear what you were about to say. No, I would definitely say it's a thing of guys. Like, and then I run into this inside B and outside of Side B, where guys almost very intentionally will want to be in groups of queer men, and that's it. And I'm like, I was like, no. like that's not like that's not what we need to go for in this situation. And I just made me really sad when, as I began like to begin have friendships with like Meg and you, Ashley, like were one of the like first people I connected with in the community. And just a bunch of people. I just think it really allowed me to have a more broader understanding of queerness. And like queerness had always been this idea of connecting with people that I could potentially be attracted to also. Yes. So it's this like,
whoa.
And
whoa, I love that.
I get to engage with queerness with someone that I'm never gonna have an issue with in any way, and be like, wow, we get to bond on this and have to have no issue in that situation. So I think that there was a beauty in this, to the point that then when I would engage with guys who'd be like, well, I just don't know how to engage with queer women, I'm like, just start friendships. It's
say hi.
Yeah. You need that. Josh, I loved that, because I think you're right. It happens both in and outside of Christian spaces. It's kind of a part of queer culture that you hang out with your tribe. And there isn't a lot of, especially from gay guys, there isn't a lot of mixing and mingling.
Let's be honest, that's where it's mostly happening.
Yes. And Ashley's right that like we as women, we're always if we want to be a part of a community, for the most part, it's going to be male dominated. That's just how it's going to be. But I love what you said, because I think that is something really beautiful about our community, is it brings another element to it that not everybody there. It's not like going to the club where like you're going to have fun, you're going to dance. You are also going to see who looks good, who you might hook up with that night. And when you're throwing in, when you're all Christians and you're throwing in lesbians and bisexuals and pansexuals and transgender people and ace people, and they're all in the mix, you don't know what's happening. So, it doesn't have that same intention of like, I'm also here because I want to see who I'm going to go home with tonight. It unfortunately can happen, but that piece is gone, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. I think what I wanted to share was that, I guess, if I could tell younger me or me 2 years ago about like what this is going to look like, I would also like kind of continue on Ashley's statement that be prepared that this is going to be, and that maybe I'm not supposed to, this is one of those things that maybe I'm not supposed to say, but here I go. It's going to be a primarily white, like,
oh no, you can say that,
cis male space. Like that is what it's going to be. And, I guess I should have already known that, but I think Revoice really like opened my eyes to that. I was like, oh, now that we're all in the same room, this room is very white. This room is very dude heavy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really thankful for all of you there, but it does make me long for, I think the female presence is there. Not as prominent, but there. But I think within our culture as a community, we could definitely use more ethnic diversity, more ace voices really involved in speaking out, more trans folks sharing and being involved. So I just think I would love to see more empowering of those voices, and it's happening. Like it's happening, and I know it's other people's priority. It's just, how do we really do that well? So I guess part of what I'm saying is, I hope if you are a female listener, if you identify as female here, if you are a ethnic minority, please like let your voice be heard. And you have something to say and people need to hear it. So I I don't know where, I don't know how, but let's make it happen, because I think the more diversity, the better. And that's my soapbox for the day. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And I love what you were talking about, especially with the not just having like the inclusion, but the empowerment of those voices.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It's been something that like Leslie Hudson Reynolds and I have been talking about, where like having the trans voice that isn't always their voice. Like their voice is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I love them, but they're like the number one like side B trans voice that gets elevated, but we need more people in this. And that's why I was so excited to see like the trans panel that happened this past year, and we're seeing more of those. But like even in just all of these areas of like minority voices, because you are 100% right. It's like so dominated by cisgender white male, and it's like taking a lot of intentionality to change that, you know?
Yeah. And it always will. It will always need to be intentional. But I think like the more that we can prioritize it and allow minority voices, gender, sexual, I mean, we're all kind of sexual minorities, but some more diverse minorities and ethnic minorities to speak, the more it will shape the community.
Yes.
As a whole. And I don't even mean speak like at Revoice or be on the podcast, though I think that those things are always helpful. I just mean like what we talk about and how we talk about it.
Yep.
And what liturgy we like, and what books we read, and what songs we sing and relate to together as a community. I don't want it to just be, we just take white evangelicalism and make it gay.
Oh,
like I don't want that. Like I want something more.
Amen.
We have too much to offer.
Amen. Yeah. 100%. Ugh. So good. I know we have a few more minutes. Anything else that stands out to y'all?
101. Just kind of thinking about what that means.
Right. I think an important thing is for people, like, don't try to understand everything all at once. Like, don't try to think you have to have it all figured out right now. Like, take the time you need. Jesus is not in any hurry for you to get to any certain point. For him, you know, eternity, the few months to few years it might take you to figure something out is like a brisk blink of an eye for Jesus and face of eternity. So it's like not, he knows where you're going to end up already. He's not waiting for you like, hey, we need to get to an answer like right now. I need to know where you're at with this. He's not doing that. Like, he knows where you're going to end up before you do. And he is perfectly patient with however long that's going to take.
Wow.
The people in your life might not be, and that's a different situation. But don't put that pressure on yourself to be able to have to like understand all of the Bible and all of theology and all of biblical study around this subject right now.
Yeah. I've always appreciated, there's been like, so I'm just a theology nerd. I love it. I always want to understand. I want to get into like original, you know, like language, all this stuff. And I have always really appreciated people that have come to me and been like, no, I don't really need that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I don't need it. Like, I believe it. And I'm like, I've obviously studied, like they've internalized like what they believe and have thought through things, but they don't have to have every single question answered for them. And I think kind of connected to that is this idea of understanding yourself as a whole person. It's not just going to be the question of like, what language do I use and all of this stuff. It's going to be like stuff that Elizabeth, you talked about in your talk, like about maturity and emotional, like emotional, like health and you know, sexual integrity, all those kinds of things. Like there's so many aspects of it that just, and it doesn't.
And if you're in a situation where someone's demanding an answer from you, I think it's good to discern and measure out, who is this person in my life? Do they demand answers in other areas of my life? Do they deserve an answer right now for this? There are certain people that, there are people that you're going to want to explain things to or whatever have you, what your priorities are in your life. But there are some people that are going to demand things from you that it's like, who are you to demand things from me? Like, not that you're, like, super important, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't, you're not part of my life. You don't influence my life. You don't care about any other part of my life.
Yeah.
So why don't you just let me be? Like, don't let yourself feel pressured by that either.
Yeah, I would like echo all of that to say, my hope is that there's room for exploration within side B communities. That we would do it all the while honoring one another, all the while caring for one another well. So I'm not saying like, please don't sexually explore in our community.
Go do that.
Take that elsewhere if that's where you're at. However, like, I think as it relates to what you believe and how you build community, like, I think people feel like I have to have it all together before I come into this space. I think people in our own spaces feel like we need only people who are like, who got it together, and anyone else could be a threat. I don't think it has to be like that. I think let's like have an open posture for people. I was thinking about Grant and I's episode at QCF, and there were so many people who wrote in who are like, what do you suggest for people who are still trying to figure it out? I'm kind of leaning this way or that. Is there some resource or some way or some place where I can come and figure it out? And I feel like come into this community and figure it out along with us, because I don't have it all together either. And what good is theology if it doesn't grow and, dare I say, in some ways change? Like, I'm not advocating for all of us to like go back to square one, but we serve a living God which means he is not never changing. However, he is moving. He is like moving within different aspects and areas. So we are also ever changing and evolving people who also can see things differently based on our own situations and the people we're around. So like there has to be room there. I hope that there's room for that like growth and exploration as well. Like I think don't be scared. Come on in.
One criticism that I've heard of like Revoice, they're like, well, why isn't it like open to side A people? And it's like, it's not that it's not open to people of different beliefs. It's like, if you want a specifically side A space, this ain't it. I'm sorry. This is not a side A space. This is a side B space. But I think it's a perfectly reasonable place for, like you said, I don't know where I'm at. I want to see what you guys have. Like, can we talk about this? Can I ask some heavy questions here? I would like those. I'm not necessarily like saying like the organization of the speakers, but like the people you would meet there, there's probably a lot more of them than you would think. Like in the interactions between sessions, getting the coffee and, you know, just the walking around and talking to each other, interacting. Like, I feel like Bridget's book has been a really good connector for different sides of the community. Like, you know, there are things that you can connect over. We should be able to have a space, like you said, to be able to like come together in the fact that we love Jesus, vary how we may on these parts.
Yeah. Well, and I think even as you're like saying before, Elizabeth, there's something to say about the fact that like 25% of the people that went to Revoice are not side B, solidly side B. Yeah. Like, and I think that shows that there is desire for people to be in this space as they figure things out, and we have to look at like how do we like make that space, you know, for that. And that it's okay to be like, for me, when I first came into the community, I was still like figuring things out. We all are, and we're all growing and all this stuff. And so 100% do not feel like you need to have everything figured out, like, because that's not needed. And this can be go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but at the same time, like, I hope that there's also people who are coming in like so excited. Yes. Because they're like, finally, I know I'm not alone.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I
definitely.
think that that's one thing that all three of us have said, is that like, I knew that there was a soft place for me to land at the end of the day, because I have people who know me, who get me, who love me. And like, I never want that to go away. Amen. Like, I don't want to I don't want to say that any of it would be muddying the water, but I think that that's the beauty of Jesus, is that he gives us community, like-minded community, hope, wholeness, safety, and then he also sends us out. Yeah. So like there's always this ebb and flow, and I think that our community can also offer that. Yeah. Like along with Jesus.
Yeah. So good. So many good things shared here.
I hope that helps the people who are like, because like I even wondered, people like, we need something not necessarily simpler, but like less technical. I was like, I hope that helped them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, y'all, if you're listening, let us know. Write us a note on the website. Email, like, send us a tweet. Direct message us on Instagram. Whatever way you want to, we would love to hear. If you've been like in Site B community for a while, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what do you wish you could tell yourself when you were, first starting this out. What would you say to people that are just coming into the community? Would love to hear that. And if you are new to this conversation, would love to hear what has been your process like. What did you gain from this? What would you add? So please message us, tweet us, send us, mention us in an Instagram story. We'll share it as well. We'd love to interact with it. Yeah.
And our patrons too that have like our Discord group. You guys don't forget about us.
Yeah, our Discord group. Let's talk about it. I would love to hear from you all.
And I want to say also, if you don't mind, Josh, if you are a pastor here or an ally or somebody who's like here to be informed, send this to your friends, because when I'm meeting with allies and pastors, when they're asking me like, how do I learn more about what Side B community looks like, this podcast is the first place I send them. Or when I talk to people and they're like, I have a friend who just came out and they're trying to explore where they're at and they don't know anyone, I always say, this is the podcast to listen to, because it's a great like starting off point, and you're getting like real life in action, like real life in real time.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. We are so glad that you joined us. And we are looking forward to the next few episodes. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Yay. Bye.